That was Crystal Ship from the Doors album entitled simply The Doors. Now don't forget, if you'd like to receive a classic call from... No way that we can call everybody who wants to hear from you guys, but we're going to try and squeeze in a few more calls. So let's make some more classic calls here. This one going out to Karen, who listens to Classic Call on KLSX in Los Angeles. We have a lot of listeners in Los Angeles and a lot of callers.
Hello?
Hi, Ray Manzarek from The Doors.
Hi, I'm glad you called me.
Oh, our pleasure.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I heard part of a story you guys were once telling about how you were all sitting in a room just after Jim Morrison died.
Uh-huh.
And you were listening to his tapes from an American poet.
Yeah.
When suddenly a bird flew in the window. Do you remember the story?
Yes, exactly. We were up at John Haney's house. He was the producer of the album An American Prayer, it's called, and it's Jim's poetry album. You're absolutely right. And it was the first time we got together. We were all there. We hadn't gotten together in quite a while. And we decided to listen to Jim's poetry and see if we could complete his poetry album for him. He had recorded just about all of the poetry he had written on December 8th, 1970. December 8th is his birthday, 1970. He died on July 3rd, 1971, so 6 months later, 7 months later, he was gone. So this was around 75, I suppose, and we said, let's see if we can complete Jim's poetry album. And we put the tapes on, and about a half hour into it, we were all just getting mesmerized by Jim's voice. And a small bird flew in, and everybody in the room felt that that was the spirit of Jim Morrison. The Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, used to believe that the spirit occupied was personified by a hawk, a free-flying bird. And when that bird flew into the room, it was like the spirit of Jim Morrison joined us, and it was sort of blessing the whole project, the whole undertaking. And after finally the bird flew out, and after we listened to Jim's poetry, we had the spirit, we had the energy to go ahead and take on this difficult undertaking of completing his poetry album for him. So I think that little bird was, in fact, the spirit of Jim Morrison.
That must have been a wonderful experience.
It was very beautiful. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay. Well,
okay, thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Karen, for being on Classic Call with us today. We'll be back with more Doors music, including their all-time biggest hit, paid for by MC. Here's the biggest Doors song of all time, Light My Fire. But first I have to ask you, Ray, what was the story behind the release of the different versions of this song? I heard that it had to be edited before the record company would release it.
Yeah, well, at the time, radio was only playing 3-minute songs, and Light My Fire is about 6.5, almost 7 minutes long, and we started to get a lot of requests from around the country for Light My Fire. Electra said to us, listen, radio stations are calling in. They want to play the song. You guys want it played? And we said, well, of course we want the song played. That's why we made the record, to get it played on the radio. I said, well, we got a problem here. We can't, they're not going to play a 6.5-minute song. We've got to cut the thing down. So we said, well, God, how do we cut a 6.5-minute song down to 3 minutes? So we got together with Paul Rothschild, our producer, and Bruce Botnick, the engineer, and said, listen, they want to cut it down. He said, Paul said, I know. I don't know what to do. Nobody knew what to do. And Paul said, wait a minute, I got an idea here. Let me try. I got a cut I want to make. I think this might just do it. I said, oh, great, Paul. What do you got in mind? He said, I'm going to cut the organ solo and the guitar solo. I said, wait a minute, dude. What are you talking about? Hold it. You can't cut my organ solo. That's the best part of the song. Robbie said, my guitar solo is brilliant. That's what the song is all about. And Paul said, listen, let me try this. I'm going to see if this is going to work. Just think of it just as a song. Forget about the fact that you guys have solos in there. Just think of it as a song with a little instrumental break in the middle. And okay, man, well, go ahead and try it. I don't think it's going to work, but go ahead. And we came back the next day into their studio, Sunset Sound in Los Angeles on the Sunset Strip, and Paul played it for us, and I thought, by God, it works. It's that short little 3-minute version, but if you didn't know the solos were there, you wouldn't miss it, and that's what was sent out to all the radio stations around the country, and that short 3-minute version is what became the #1 song in America. But within a year, all the radio stations went to a longer format, and you could hear finally on the actual FM and AM radio of America, you could hear the long version of The Doors' Light My Fire.
Well, let's play it now. The long version by The Doors on Classic Call.